Allison Mack was once a beloved actress, best known for her role as Chloe Sullivan on the television series Smallville. Her career seemed promising, with fans adoring her portrayal of the smart and loyal friend of Superman. However, behind the scenes, Mack's life took a dark turn when she became involved with a controversial self-help group called NXIVM. NXIVM, pronounced Nexium, was founded by Keith Raniere in the late 1990s. It marketed itself as a personal development company offering executive success programs. But as revealed later, NXIVM was far from a benign self-help organization. Mack's involvement with NXIVM began innocently enough. Little did she know, her journey with NXIVM would lead her down a path of manipulation, abuse, and legal consequences. Allison Mack first encountered NXIVM through her Smallville co-star, Kristen Croak. Crook had been involved with the organization and invited Mack to attend a workshop. Intrigued by the promise of self-improvement and empowerment, Mack decided to give it a try. The initial sessions seemed beneficial, offering insights into personal growth and emotional intelligence. Mack quickly became enamored with the teachings of Keith Raniere. He was charismatic and convincing, presenting himself as a brilliant thinker with revolutionary ideas. Mack, seeking direction and purpose, found herself drawn to his philosophy. As Mack's involvement deepened, she started to recruit others into the fold. Her celebrity status made her an effective recruiter, lending credibility to the organization. However, the deeper she delved, the more entangled she became in NXIVM's web of control. Mack's journey into NXIVM was not a path to empowerment, but a descent into a cult's dark machinations. As Allison Mack's involvement with NXIVM grew, so did her responsibilities within the organization. She quickly rose through the ranks, becoming one of Keith Raniere's most trusted lieutenants. Her dedication and belief in the group's mission earned her a position of authority, and she began to wield significant influence over other members. One of Mack's most notorious roles was in the creation of DOS, a secretive subgroup within NXIVM. DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, loosely translated to Master over Slave Women. This covert organization was designed to be an inner circle of women who were expected to be completely subservient to their masters, one of whom was Mack herself. Mack played a crucial role in recruiting women into DOS. She would approach potential members under the guise of offering them a special mentorship opportunity. Once they agreed, these women were required to provide collateral, compromising material such as explicit photos or damaging personal information. Mack, as a high-ranking DOS member, was deeply complicit in these activities, perpetuating the cycle of abuse and control. The truth about NXIVM and DOS eventually began to unravel, leading to a series of shocking revelations. Former members started to come forward, sharing harrowing accounts of the abuse and manipulation they had suffered. These testimonies caught the attention of law enforcement, and an investigation into NXIVM and its leaders was launched. Allison Mack was one of the central figures in the investigation. She faced numerous allegations including sex trafficking, forced labor, and racketeering conspiracy. Prosecutors alleged that Mack had used her position of power to exploit and control other women, coercing them into sexual relationships with Raniere and subjecting them to various forms of abuse. The evidence against Mack was damning. Emails, text messages, and witness testimonies all pointed to her active participation in the heinous acts perpetrated by DOS. The case against Mack was strong, and the public was horrified by the extent of her involvement. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of a long trial, Allison Mack decided to plead guilty to several charges. In April 2019, she admitted to her role in recruiting women into DOS and collecting collateral to ensure their compliance. Her guilty plea was a significant turning point in the case, as it marked her acceptance of responsibility for her actions. During her court testimonies, Mack provided detailed accounts of her involvement in NXIVM and DOS. She described how she had been manipulated by Keith Raniere, who had convinced her that their actions were for the greater good. Mack expressed regret for her role in the abuse and apologized to the victims, acknowledging the harm she had caused them. Mack's cooperation with authorities was crucial in building the case against Raniere and other high-ranking NXIVM members. By coming forward, Mack helped to expose the full extent of NXIVM's criminal activities. Despite her cooperation, Mack's guilty plea did not absolve her of responsibility. In June 2021, Allison Mack was sentenced for her role in NXIVM and DOS. She received a 3-year prison sentence, a relatively lenient punishment compared to the severity of her crimes. The judge took into account her cooperation with authorities and her expressions of remorse when determining her sentence. During the sentencing hearing, Mack once again apologized to the victims and their families. She expressed deep regret for her actions and acknowledged the pain she had caused. Mack described how she had been drawn into NXIVM by false promises and manipulated by Raniere, but she also took responsibility for her choices and the harm they had inflicted. The public reaction to Mack's sentencing was mixed. Some felt that her cooperation and remorse warranted a lighter sentence, while others believed that she deserved a harsher punishment for her role in the abuse. Mack's sentencing marked the end of a dark chapter in her life and the beginning of her journey towards redemption. Keith Raniere, the leader of NXIVM, faced a separate trial for his role in the organization's criminal activities. His trial began in May 2019 and lasted for 6 weeks. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including testimonies from former members, emails, and other documents that detailed the extent of his manipulation and abuse. Raniere was found guilty on all charges, including sex trafficking, forced labor, and racketeering conspiracy. The evidence presented at his trial painted a chilling picture of his control over NXIVM members and the methods he used to maintain his power. In October 2020, Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in prison. The judge described his actions as particularly egregious and noted the profound impact they had on the lives of his victims. Raniere's sentence was a significant victory for the survivors of NXIVM, who had endured years of abuse and manipulation at his hands. The trial also brought to light the inner workings of NXIVM and the extent of its criminal activities. The downfall of NXIVM and the trials of its leaders attracted widespread media attention. News outlets around the world covered the story, highlighting the shocking details of the abuse and manipulation that had taken place within the organization. Documentaries and news specials delved into the intricacies of NXIVM, providing a comprehensive look at its rise and fall. One of the most notable documentaries was HBO's The Vow, which featured interviews with former members and provided an in-depth look at the inner workings of NXIVM. The media coverage also played a crucial role in the organization's collapse. As more information about NXIVM's activities came to light, public outrage grew. The negative publicity made it difficult for the organization to continue operating, and many of its remaining members began to distance themselves from it. The combination of legal action and media scrutiny ultimately led to NXIVM's dissolution. The survivors' stories inspired others to come forward and share their experiences with cults and manipulative groups. The story of Allison Mack and NXIVM serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of cults and manipulative leaders. It highlights how individuals can be drawn into such groups by promises of self-improvement and empowerment, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of abuse and control. Mack's journey from a successful actress to a convicted criminal underscores the power of manipulation and the importance of vigilance. Cults often prey on vulnerable individuals, offering them a sense of belonging and purpose. Charismatic leaders like Keith Raniere use psychological tactics to exploit their followers, convincing them to surrender their autonomy and adhere to the group's ideology. The case of NXIVM illustrates how these tactics can lead to severe physical and emotional harm. It serves as a warning to society about the potential for abuse within seemingly benign groups. It also underscores the importance of critical thinking and skepticism, encouraging individuals to question the motives and methods of any organization they consider joining. Ultimately, the downfall of NXIVM and the prosecution of its leaders represent a victory for justice and a step towards healing for the survivors.